In yesterday's official Elite Dangerous livestream, Frontier discussed Odyssey with developer Dr. K. Ross, co-lead developer of Elite's rendering team. The stream was quite revealing and gave some insights as to what to expect from Odyssey in terms of planets. Now, K also has a background in physics and is largely responsible for the development of the Stellar Forge, the engine that is responsible for creating the game's galaxy. This means that K's work has a strong focus on the tech behind planetary generation, so let's take a look at some of the new points that we've heard about Odyssey. I think one thing that's really worth highlighting is the amount of graphical changes going into the game. New planetary tech is not the only change. Frontier confirmed that improvements to lighting have made up a huge chunk of the new update. This includes an increase in shadow spotlights, the addition of PBR materials, which hopefully should give a vast improvement to the appearance of ships. Planetary atmospheres will also cast light, which technically means that there will be a wide range of lighting conditions down on planets depending upon the atmospheric composition. Lighting from stars has also been improved. Now, also of note here is that Frontier have confirmed in the past that the new lighting changes will not only be coming to Odyssey, but that they will also be coming to Horizons. I'm not sure if this will also mean that the PBR update will be added to Horizons, but the new lighting system definitely will be. Oh, and something a bit random, on the screen here you can see one of the older Odyssey images. This shows off some of the new graphics and some of the new lighting. If you check out right at the back of the image there, you can see an entrance into the station's walkable areas. Just an interesting observation. New lighting also raises a few questions that Frontier didn't cover. For example, would it allow for multiple light sourcing from stars? Currently, a star system only has a single star acting as a light source. In systems with more than one star, this can get a little odd as shadows are not cast in the correct manner. Could this perhaps be fixed for Odyssey? Another point of interest here is related to shadows. Now, there's a whole ton of planets out there that have rings around them. Most planets cast shadows onto rings. The rings don't currently cast shadows onto planets. This question did come up in the live stream, but unfortunately Kay couldn't quite recall what the situation was on this. From what I could understand, it seems as though some work has been done on this, but Kay couldn't quite remember the outcome. So at this point it's something that could be coming, or it could be something that for whatever reason couldn't quite make the cut. We'll have to wait and see. Understandable that this part couldn't be remembered, as it's certainly not always easy to remember every single piece of information. Now, rings casting shadows is something I'm definitely interested in seeing in the game. It might sound like a very small addition to some people, but it's really not. In fact, it's an addition that can have a dramatic effect on the overall mood of the game. To highlight that, here's a few screenshots of rings casting shadows in Space Engine. Now, I'm not for one moment suggesting that anything like this will be possible in Odyssey, but if ring systems are able to cast shadows, then it would certainly open up a lot of possibilities. Moving on to the planetary tech itself, as we know from previous information, Odyssey will add billions of new landable planets into the game, which counts for around 20% more landable worlds than Horizons has. What's interesting here is that every single landable planet in the game will be updated with the new planetary tech. This means that all the worlds that exist currently in Horizons will be undergoing a massive overhaul. So a fair amount of time was spent on the technical details of all of this, how it's been implemented, how it's been designed, and what was actually changed in terms of the coding and the science behind all of this. If you're interested in hearing more on that, then do check out the official live stream. It's well worth listening to. In this video, I'm going to focus on what all of this actually means for the end results. One of the biggest things that players will notice then is that all landable planets within Elite are going to be regenerated. This is due to the new tech being deployed into the game. In short, any worlds that you know and recognise will be changing, and this will affect their terrain, colours and material makeup. There's a lot of benefit to this, with the main one being that the new versions of the planets should look much better than the current versions. Another gain here is that people not planning on buying Odyssey will nonetheless gain the benefit of the new planetary tech for Horizons, as all the existing Horizons worlds will also be improved. The main downside, however, is that there will be a load of famous worlds out there which players know and love, which are unfortunately going to be completely changing. Whilst the worlds will still be there when Odyssey arrives, they will, well, not really look how they look at the moment. Just one of those things, it's a side effect of regenerating the planets. Now, one thing that was interesting about the discussion on planets in this live stream is that more than once Odyssey was hinted at being just one step towards other things. For example, it was pointed out that new planetary tech was designed to be more robust and expandable so that it can support whatever comes after Odyssey. Also, the planets we've so far heard about with tenuous atmospheres were referred to as the first batch of planets. So that certainly sounds like more planet variations will be coming after the ones with the tenuous atmospheres, but nothing really official on that, no official announcement on that so far, but it's looking good, I would say. As for the planets themselves, they are going to be built from a greater variety of materials. Most horizons had rocky, metal-rich, high metal, ice and rocky ice. These all shared resources and assets, which meant that often they looked quite similar to each other. Odyssey instead will give each planet type a more distinct look. Worlds will also have separate regions on them. These regions were referred to as geomes. That's the areas of the planets which are geologically distinct. It does appear, however, that all of these changes will have a hard effect on what is and isn't physically possible on the planets. Generally speaking, it means that mountains might be a bit shorter than they currently are, at least the highest ones. This is due to the gravitational strain placed upon them, as this is now more accurately modelled. Basically then, worlds with relatively high gravity will have lower and gentler mountains. Rock scatter has also been improved for Odyssey. The current rock generation system in Horizons places the rocks at random. Odyssey instead has a more directed input on all of this, and the planetary tech itself decides what rocks go where, giving for a much more natural appearance. Now, one big question that has been repeatedly asked by many people is whether the planets with a tenuous atmosphere will have weather. The answer to this seems to have multiple angles. Yes, Frontier are implementing dust and wind visual effects in Odyssey. The unspoken part of the answer seemed to hint towards future planets where things might perhaps be a bit more involved. But this part was just my personal interpretation of what was being said and what was kind of going unsaid. What was very clear though is that blowing dust effects will definitely be in Odyssey on the new planets. And finally, Kay briefly touched on the placement of planetary bases. There will be some changes to how this is done, as the assets surrounding the area where the bases join with the planet, that's the basically the seam between the base asset and the planet itself, this is going to be improved, so it will make bases look much more naturally placed, giving quite an improvement there hopefully. So that brings us to an end of all the information, all the new information on Odyssey that was revealed in the live stream. If you do want to check out the full live stream, you can find that linked in the video description. And also do check out the other link down there where you can see some great notes from Stuart GT. It's rather nice right up there, going into some detail covering everything that was said. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys and girls next time.